Hi everyone, it's Karen Cole here from Legal Minded Friends, and today's question is, can I secretly do a DNA test on my children? Normally this question comes up when a couple have met and they haven't been going out very long, and she suddenly becomes pregnant, and then he questions if he is the father. For those men that have not questioned the pregnancy, they may continue the relationship further and even decide to get married. In a UK study, out of those men who had doubts they were the biological father, 30% found out after DNA testing that they were not the biological father. You may think this is a low percentage. However, if I said this stat differently, such as just over 1 in 3 fathers after DNA testing found out they were not the child's natural father, you would understand why the man might want to do a secret DNA test. In the UK, there is approximately 30,000 paternity tests carried out each year. However, if you're thinking about doing one secretly, I wouldn't do it as it is against the law. You will need consent. But what if you have done a secret test? Well, let's look at a recent court case. Okay, let's look at the background of a recent court case. The couple were going through divorce. Divorce, as you know, is already difficult for children if not done amicably. The father had to pay high child maintenance fees. The mother had a male friend who the father thought his children resembled in looks and in mannerisms, so he carried out a secret DNA test without anyone's knowledge. The results were he was not a match to his children. So he asked the male friend to provide a DNA sample to see if he was the children's father. This male friend refused, so the father decided to go to court to resolve the matter. In the father's application, he wanted the court to draw inference to this male friend possibly being the children's father by reason of his refusal to provide a DNA sample. Confused yet? I know I am, so let's take a closer look at the positions of each party. So the court must now weigh up the statements and testimonies of each of the parties. And as it transpired, both the mother and her male friend's stories were not consistent. They had worked together at the time the children would have been conceived. The male friend is referred to by the court as the putative father because he is a man whose relationship with the children has not legally been established yet. Each party's position was considered by the judge. In short, the judge accepted the father had reasonable doubt. However, the children were deeply distressed and angry. They felt betrayed by the man they had known as their father to secretly carry out a DNA test on them. And as a result, they suffered emotional instability. And one child even threatened to self-harm. And they all refused to go for further forensic testing. The social worker felt that the court should not pressure the children to do a blood test and to take their wishes and feelings into account. That they were not influenced by the mother, as the mother was willing to do a DNA test. The putative father asked the court not to take his refusal to do a DNA test as if he had something to hide. So how did the judge balance the decision that he had to make? He had to consider case law, that if a couple were married at the time of conception, even if it was discovered that the mother had an affair, the husband is considered to have parental responsibility and should be legally named as father on the child's birth certificates. In this case, the mother and father were married at the time of conception. The judge also took into account the children's wishes and feelings, which are paramount in deciding the way forward. The judge commented, "It could not be ignored that the father is the author of his own predicament, having chosen at best unwisely to take matters into his own hands by deploying the DNA test upon which the court could not rely. And the reason the court could not rely on this is because there was no legal chain of custody with the DNA samples the father had taken."
Now, I haven't gone through every aspect and argument made within this court case. If you're interested in the fully approved judgment, you can see the links below. So how does Human Rights Act 1998 get interpreted within this court case? So we're looking at Article 8, Respect for Your Private and Family Life, which means you have the right to live your life privately. But this right is not absolute. For example, no one has the right to take your blood without your permission. However, the courts have taken a broad meaning of Article 8 and interpret it, balancing it against the right of others.
The judge decided the best way forward was to direct all three adults by order of the court to supply their DNA samples, which would be held by social services until the children felt ready. The judge also directed social services to explain to the children the order made, and that the judge took their wishes and feelings into account. But the question of their parentage is now out there, and it would be better for them to know who was their biological father sooner rather than later. The judge also allowed for the case to be restored by the father if needed. It is interesting to note, in the judge's comments, he recognized the father may be disappointed with the judgment, as it kept him in the current position of being the children's legal father with all the legal parental responsibilities. So my takeaway is that this father was lucky the judge accepted he had a reasonable doubt to carry out a secret DNA test. It is clear the courts will not take lightly the removal of a father's parental responsibilities, as the court's primary duty is to the children. I would also like to add that if you think you are a father of someone and you have not been named on the birth certificate, you can seek a court order to establish your relationship to a child. You will have to show the court that there is a high probability you could be the natural parent. Either way, you should seek legal advice. Well, I hope you found today's video interesting, and if it has helped you or someone else, please like and share. Follow the links below if you want to find out more information, and contact Legal Minded Friends if you have a legal worry.